I'm starting a new book today, so I did figure out what I'm doing for my first scene. So I'm going to work as soon as I'm finished with this.
Okay, figuring out what you're going to write is very important.
Yeah. Well, I have a really detailed synopsis, but I didn't know what I was going to do for the first scene, but I got it. But I'm so unprepared. I didn't bring a copy of my book to hold up, or I don't have my dog. I feel like I'm just ill prepared for this, but okay.
That's okay.
Am I the only one drinking on a Friday night?
Oh,
No.
usually
Okay.
it's like a habit for me when especially with Love Sweet Arrow, to have booze in hand. But
Oh.
On brand.
Gotta make a trip up there.
always.
Here, our room was not available. So we went to the bar and had a glass of champagne, but then I got up here and I had to drink coffee because I'm just like, I don't know, it's such a lightweight. I was like, I can't work. I've had one glass of champagne. I've got to super up.
Okay, so just so you know, we are live, so we're going to get started.
Okay.
So that's all good. It's Friday night and we are here, and this is Wild About You. It is a panel of authors who have romance novels that features pets and or animals in their books, and just something for fun. So I just thought it would be so fun. So many covers have been coming out with adorable animals on them, or if they're not on the cover, they are in the pages of the book, in between those pages. So we're going to talk about that, and I want to get started. First of all, thanks so much to Love Sweet Arrow for hosting us this evening. All of the authors featured tonight have books available on the Love Sweet Arrow website, and Marissa will be dropping links in the chat, and you can click on the links and pick up those books. And many of the authors have also provided signed book plates and other swag, so make sure you check for that as well, something special to pick up when you pick up the book. Plus, you're supporting indie bookstores and small women-owned businesses, so all good reasons to buy your books from Love Sweet Arrow. With that being said, here we go. So I'm Melanie Johnson. If you have ever know anything about Love Sweet Arrow, you've probably seen my face too many times. But I'm here tonight with a great panel of authors, and we're going to get started here. We've got, I'm going to start with the two authors who had book releases this week. So Terry Wilson. Can you say hi, Terry?
Hi.
So Terry just had, it was A Spot of Trouble, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A Spot of Trouble just came out this week, and tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your book. Okay.
I was just saying before we got on this Zoom, I'm on a retreat this weekend, and I didn't bring a copy of my book with me, or else I would be holding it up. But I have a brand new book out this week called A Spot of Trouble, and it is a 101 Dalmatians inspired rom-com. If you've seen 101 Dalmatians, just imagine that scene where Roger and Anita meet in the park and their dogs get switched. And so the book is basically kind of like that whole extended scene into one book-length rom-com. But my name is Terry Wilson. I write heartwarming contemporary romance. I've had 4 Hallmark Channel movies made out of my books before. So if you're a Hallmark fan, then I think that you will like my stories. So I said my book, A Spot of Trouble, is based on 101 Dalmatians. There's also a fireman versus policeman softball league going on in the background. My heroine is a bubbly, quirky cupcake baker, and there are a lot of fun doggy Dalmatian shenanigans,
Which we're going to talk more about later. And I know this, not a Hallmark book, but it sounds like you sound a little, you get the cupcake baker and you get so very cute. So that's Terry. And then Lily Vale also recently this week had a book release. There it is. And we have not one, but 2 puppies on the cover. So Lily, I know that you debuted in YA, correct?
Yeah, I did.
So tell us a little bit about you and then a little bit about the book.
Yeah, so I'm Lily Vale. I write both young adult and adult novels, and this was my adult debut, which I'm really excited, only released on Tuesday, so I'm still enjoying my debut week, and I'm really happy to end this Friday doing this event, everyone here. So the shoddy setup is a slow burn access to lovers second chance rom-com between a furniture restorer and the boy who broke her heart 6 years ago. She's dating someone else when the story begins, although she's not with him for too long. She's happy with where things are going and they're good enough for right now, but she's still kind of, into her ex. Her mom comes up with this like convoluted scheme to like get her and him, and his name is Milan, together again to flip this listing that is very, very difficult for him to sell. And she volunteers Rita, his furniture restorer, into designing the furniture and offering up her interior design skills to help him sell that house. In return, she is adamant that her mom does not know what's best for her, and there's no way she's going to let him back in again in her life and give him a chance to break her heart again. So she signs herself and her current boyfriend up on myshadi.com, which is a fictional Indian matchmaking site, which she's using to convince everyone just how over Milan she actually is. And she's hoping to rub her match with her current boyfriend in everyone's face. Unfortunately, she does not get the validation that she wants, and she matches with Milan instead.
Of course she does.
It causes all sorts of problems as they renovate the house together with this match and they're like looming over their heads like the elephant in the room that neither one really wants to talk about.
Lots of fun, lots of shenanigans, I am sure. So both of those books are available now, and the links will be getting dropped into the chat. And if you are joining us this evening, I'm already seeing some comments. Yes, we are going to talk about Maisie's cat in the book. So if you see me looking off to this side, I'm reading the chat, so I'm not ignoring everybody. So yeah, so welcome everyone this evening. Please make sure you drop your questions in there. And Robert, I've got your question. I'll make sure to ask it later, but we got to first meet the rest of our fabulous panel. So next up, we have Julia. I believe you've got the next book coming out at the end. It's the beginning of October, yes?
Yeah, yes. I had to think about it. So I'm Julia London, and I am actually better known for the historicals that I write. And I'll just plug this one. This is a reissue. The Hazards of Hunting a Duke just came out, but I've written a bunch of rom-coms or contemporary romance and some rom-coms, and I don't have a copy of my book yet. There's some issues with the printing, and so they haven't gotten them printed yet, but I do have the first one in the series, which was You Lucky Dog. You see the two basset hounds on there. Isn't that cute? And it started with a dog. It's the book that comes out in October. And You Lucky Dog started with a dog walker who gets two identical bassets mixed up. And so they have to like try and find their dogs. And then it started with a dog. Two people are in a ride share. Actually, there's four people in a ride share in a rainstorm, and they lose their phones as they're all trying to get out and run to the plane, and they get the wrong phone. So they start texting each other. And one guy has on his wallpaper this huge, giant, goofy looking dog with it has on reindeer antlers and, his tongue hanging out. So she really wants to meet him. But the book is, so they hit it off. They start texting over the holidays, and then they, come back to Austin. It's set in Austin, and they meet. And they don't really talk about what they do, but he is trying to help his family pull their diner, it's like a coffee shop diner, out of ruin. They're about to go under in Austin, in a really trendy part of town. And they think what's going to ruin them is the new fancy coffee shop going up across the street that has all this, all these bells and whistles. And they don't know that she's the one that's putting that one out. So one of the reviews I read said, this is such a great take on You've Got Mail. And I never even thought about it, but it is exactly that.
Isn't that funny how those rom-com things, they're so soaked in, They're
so soaked in, yeah. And so they discover that they're, both in competition, but how the dogs come in is that, and I borrowed this from San Antonio, city south of Austin, and they have King Fido every year. I think that's the name of it. During the fiesta, and it's like a charity thing. It raises money for the San Antonio Humane Society, but they crown a king of all these rescue dogs. And so I borrowed that and gave it a little bit of an Austin twist. And so these two coffee shops joined the King Mutt competition, and they both have dogs that people come in and vote with their dollars. You put $1 in the jar. So that's basically the competition between these two rescue dogs. It's a lot of fun. I mean,
It
Have a lot
sounds
of dogs in this
And I
book.
we'll talk more about the competition. That sounds fun, but I love that both your books kind of start with this kind of bonkers mix.
Yeah,
So
big
next
mix
up we
up.
have Maisie, who is a debut author, and her first book comes out March 1st of next year. So hello, Maisie.
Hi. Here's my book, A Brush with Love. I've been like referring to it as my corny tooth book for a while now, so I guess that's kind of the unofficial tagline. Yeah, it chronicles Harper and Dan. Harper is a fourth-year dental student, and Dan is a first-year dental student. And Harper, in a meat disaster, literally crash lands into Dan, and it throws everything of her carefully laid plans out of orbit. The book looks at so Harper has an anxiety disorder, which is a huge aspect of kind of their journey, and they're both dealing with certain aspects of mental illness and stuff like that. But in regards to the pets, Harper, who is just like a pint-sized woman, she's 5'2", 100 pounds soaking wet. She has a giant Maine Coon cat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite scenes to write was when Dan first meets her cat, because I mean, quite frankly, Maine Coons can be a little horrifying. Like they're intimidating creatures, but so the cat's name is Big Booty Judy, and she plays a very
that's the cat's name. Hold up. So the reason, I obviously I kind of cheated, and when I was bringing people onto this panel, it was like everyone who had these cute, dogs on the cover, and and then Maisie's talking about her grumpy cat on social media. I'm like, wait, I've got to bring you on, and then she's so Big Booty Judy. Is that the name?
Yes. It's Big Booty Judy. And I mean, there's literally a line where Dan's like, why did you name your cat Judy? And she's like, because it's dignified. Yeah. And I loved the idea of this like very small woman having just the most obnoxiously large cat possible. And he's so freaked out by it. He's like, and I don't know, like Judy was my favorite part to write of the whole book. And I feel like she steals a lot of scenes.
That is what animals do in books, on stage, everywhere, which we will talk more about that as well. And the fact that, yes, you are the cat among the dogs here.
Yeah, I am like the token cat lady in the group. And so I'm like, I am ready. I have my debate cards ready. I'm ready to go.
We'll talk about that. But before then, we have to get to Stephanie London, hello, who has the most, I'm sorry, everybody, but she does. She has the most adorable title. So tell us the book that's coming out in May and a little bit more about you.
Yes, hi, I'm Stephanie London, Aussie girl living in Canada. I write contemporary romance and romantic comedy. And my book, I'm going to just preface this by saying I say dash hound. I know in America you say dachshund, so I apologize if I offend any dachshund owners. But my book is The Dash Hound Wears Prada. It is a retelling of The Devil Wears Prada if Miranda Priestley was a dash hound. Yes.
I say wiener dog, so whatever.
Yeah.
So the story is about a hero who is like a extremely wealthy hermit. He doesn't have anything to do with the public, and his last living relative, his beloved eccentric grandmother, dies and sneaks her crazy dash hound into the will. So he inherits this rambunctious, ill-tempered torpedo fluff of anger and hate and spite. Called Camilla, the dash hound, and he's very desperate to get some help with this dog and the dog's very overwhelming schedule that the grandmother has left.
Oh my goodness.
The heroine
already.
Yeah. The heroine is a social media expert that has gone viral for all the wrong reasons when her client, a Disney princess, vomits at the Met Gala. And so she loses her job and ends up taking essentially a job being an assistant to this dog, and takes the dog to her psychic appointments and her high-end grooming salons. And
it all is coming together when you're saying the dog is the
yeah, it was so much fun to write.
So I'm sure everyone is clicking pre-order over on the Love Sweet Arrow page for that. So before we get into more discussion about why we chose to write these books, how we were inspired to base a dog off of this character from The Devil Wears Prada, I wanted to ask about your own pets. And so I wanted to ask you what your first pet was. So Stephanie, and if you didn't have a pet, then I'm sorry. You could tell there was a pet you always wanted, or I know some people had a friend who always had a pet that they kind of adopted. So Stephanie, how about you? First pet.
We had two animals in our house. One was a little terrier called Jasmine, who was just the most like kind-hearted little dog. She just loved everybody and she was a bit of a Houdini, like any kind of fence she could tunnel her way under it. So she escaped a lot. And then my grandmother also had a budgerigar, which is like a little bird called Sparky, who was like kind of a circus freak. Like he would climb upside down around his cage and hang off things. And he listened to the dog in that house barking enough that he learned to mimic it and like call the dog into the room. So he was quite a character.
I'm a sucker for, you said it was a bird, right? A little, yes.
We call them budgies in Australia, but they're like a little parrot.
Did you see the news story about the bird that was yelling, help, help, help me, help? And the neighbors called the police because they thought it was a person trapped and kidnapped inside someone's house. And the guy had to bring the bird out and be like, no, when I was a kid, we thought it was funny. We taught it to scream help. It is the wildest story. Anyway, Lily, what about you? Did you have a story about a first pet?
Yeah, kind of. I always really wanted a dog, but my mom was allergic, so I didn't have one growing up. So I had to convince them to get a pet that I thought they would be okay with. And like anything furry was like out of the question. So I didn't want a fish because as beautiful as they are, like I really wanted something I could hold that'd be interactive. And I settled on hermit crabs.
I'm laughing because I have multiple hermit crabs in my house right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're so cute. Like I love the really tiny ones because I was convinced that they would not like pinch me, unlike the huge ones, which were like the size of a tennis ball or a peach or whatever. And they had huge pincers, huge claws. And I was like really taken with the really cute tiny shells. Like there were some that were like the size of a pinky nail, basically. And I tried to convince my parents to let me have it. And, you know, they were like not really keen on the idea because I'd never had a pet before. And they were like, well, are you going to change the sand? Is it going to smell? Are you going to like take care of them? Or is all the responsibility going to fall on us to keep these poor things alive? And so I took my mom to PetSmart to go look at them and to prove like how grown up and responsible I was. On the way to that section of the store, we passed this like glass enclosed room where there was an employee with like the rats and the mice. And I swear it was not intentional, but I convinced my mom to let me go in there and play with them. And I totally fell in love with this really adorable, like big gray rat. And I let it climb up my arm and like sit on my shoulder. And I was in love with it. And I told my mom, it's not really that different from like a hamster. And my mom's not keen on hamsters either. So she was definitely not into me having this rat. And I tried to convince her like, oh, it's so cute. I'll take care of it. I promise it'll never get loose and run over all over the house. And basically she was like, nope, we came here for hermit crabs and that's what we're going to get. So inadvertently, I kind of strategically got what I wanted. Only by threatening something worse.
She's like, between the rat, like she might have still said no to the hermit crabs, but between the rat and the hermit crabs, you're going to get that hurt. Yeah. That's hilarious. I had a friend who had pet rats, and I'm sorry, no. Yeah. When we had sleepovers, and I could hear them in the cage, I would have nightmares they were gonna crawl out and eat my eyeballs, but you know.
My apartment had to evacuate recently on like a fire drill, and my boyfriend and I are like manhandling our cats, but somebody came out and they had like a carrier, and it was just filled with rats, and I was like, Oh my God, no.
I get it. Like she loved them. They were her pets, but I just no. The long naked tail. No.
Yeah, couldn't be me.
And it should be very clear to this day, like as an adult, I would never have a rat.
Maisie, how about you? First pet?
I guess my very first pet, my parents had just a big giant, she was like a big teddy bear of a dog named Molly. And so I grew up with her, for, the first couple years. And then, I had some, some other like family pets, but then the first I adopted on my own, which like feel like my children at this point, are my two cats, Yaya and Zadie. And it's like obnoxious how much I talk about them, but they're also just like my mom has come to visit and she's like, it's like you have two toddlers just constantly running around. Like they are deviant and they are like intentional and manipulative, but
so you said Yaya and Zadie? Is that
yeah? Okay, so like I know those are weird names. So the first one that we got was Yaya, and her original name was Laurel from the shelter. And we didn't love that for a cat. And this was at the time where that internet thing was going around where it was like you either heard Yanni or Laurel in like that vocal clip. I don't know. It was like around the same time as the dress too, like if you saw white or blue for that dress. And so then we named her Yanni, and then it became Yaya, and then it was like Baba Yaga, and I don't know. There's just been like a lot of names for her.
But now here we are.
And here we are. And then the other one, we were just like, Zadie means princess in Hebrew, I believe. And we were like, that's kind of her. And I've never met an animal quite as dumb as she is, but she's so happy. And I think that that's so beautiful. Like I respect the hell out of her. She has nothing going on up there, but she is so happy about it.
My sister-in-law had adopted a dog like that from a shelter. His name was Buzz, and he was the dumbest animal on the planet, but he was just very happy.
Yeah, it's honestly, sometimes I'm jealous. I'm like, I wish I could have that just beautiful ignorance.
Like that, yes.
She's like eating jalapenos, she's eating cactuses, like no sense of survival, no common sense, like everything is destroyed that I have ever bought. And so like, but she's really just living her best life.
All right. Julia, how about you?
Well, I wasn't born on a ranch. It was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago. I was born in a hospital, but it was from a ranch family. So we had a lot of animals. We had horses, we had chickens, which I can remember wanting to squeeze, and cows, which I still have a great affinity for. Don't laugh, Terry, but I do. I really do. But we also had dogs, and we had a couple of dachshunds. I'm going to start saying that now. And Nibbles and Pumpkin. And I don't even think I was walking, but I remember those two dogs because I guess, as I started walking, their nose level was right where my diaper was. So I remember them like always following me around. And, I don't remember ever being without them, but we had dogs all my life, and then I've had dogs as an adult. And right now I have an old dog, a Labrador Moose, and he's almost 12, and he's had some issues. I would get him up here, but he's too big and he doesn't know how to do it anymore. Like to get up my lap so I could show him your face. But so, I've always had dogs and I always will. And we even had some cats in there, Maisie. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know. I'm going to say coyotes. I'm going to guess coyotes. Just saying.
That's on a farm. Yeah, probably.
Sorry.
Before you're traumatizing her over here.
I really don't know what happened to them. So.
Okay, now, so Terry, how about you?
That got really dark, Julia.
That's why cows are such a great pet. Coyotes can't get them.
Julia and I are good friends, and every time I've ever seen her order a cheeseburger, she qualifies it by talking about her affinity for cows. That's why I was laughing.
Like it's excusing it.
Yeah. I really do like them, but I really want this cheeseburger.
She eats cheeseburgers, but she has a really guilty conscience. Okay, so back to my first pet. So I am a big dog lover. I've always loved dogs. I wanted one so bad when I was a little girl. My mom, who I love dearly, is a big clean freak. And so she, for a long time resisted. But finally, when I was about 11 years old, we got a dog. Said we could get a poodle because they didn't shed. So that's what we got. We got a little apricot poodle puppy. I still remember going to pick him out. It was between him or one of his sisters. The sister was a black poodle and he was apricot. And I picked him out because the breeder where we got him at the time believed in mixing Jell-O with food when they were puppies. I do not know why, but he had like a little blob of red Jell-O stuck on his head and he was so cute. So that's who we got. And then my dad let me name him. And back in the day, the movie Excalibur had just come out and I had seen it the night before with like my best friend and her mom. And even though I was only 11, I think I had my romance writer heart at the time because I was obsessed with Lancelot and Guinevere. So I named the poodle after Lancelot, but I mean, I had seen dog shows that dogs had long fancy names. So his name was Sir Lancelot of Wilson, was his name. But he went by Lance. And even though he was a boy, he enjoyed wearing pink rhinestone collars, much to my dad and grandpa's chagrin. They were like, really, that's what you pick us? But he was just a sweetheart. He was like the sweetest poodle. So now I have 2 Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, and we have
those are those are the ones that always look at you with those eyes, right? Like
yes, and mine are really spoiled, but they're the sweetest dogs, like total Velcro dogs. And then
and she's still buying sparkly colors too.
Not surprised. And tiaras, maybe some tiaras.
Yeah.
I like some glitz with my pets. I'm not gonna lie. And fittingly, we do have a mixed breed dog named Princess that was a rescue from Hurricane Harvey. So
I mean, that's important. The rescues, like that's, So what I wanted to ask, so we'll start with you and A Spot of Trouble, which you had talked about, kind of being, kind of an homage to 101 Dalmatians. Is that what inspired you, basically that movie?
Yes, I just thought that, I can't believe no one's done a rom-com version of 101 Dalmatians because, well, first of all, I have a son who's 30 now, and the live action 101 Dalmatians starring Glenn Close as Cruella de Vil, I don't know if anyone remembers that, that came out when Cameron was in kindergarten, and my son Cameron was obsessed with that movie, y'all. I think at least 10 or 15 times, like at the theater, and a lot of times, like a lot. And it came out right around the holidays. And I do remember because he was real into getting Happy Meals with his McDonald's. McDonald's for the holidays that year had 101 different Dalmatian Happy Meal toys, and Cameron was determined to get all of them. So it was the Christmas of Chicken McNuggets, and I mean, I think we got finally like 30 different ones or whatever. So
that's dedication.
Oh my God.
I know we had a lot of the Dalmatian, a lot of them, we had some duplicates, but.
So did you know you always wanted to write a book based on 101 Dalmatians? It just had to find the right time?
No, I mean, that's where my love for that movie comes from, because it's so sentimental for me, because it was such a big part of my son's childhood. And I've written a lot of books with dogs. And so I just always thought it would be fun to do a Dalmatian one. But I think when I finally got the idea and it crystallized in my mind, my stepdad is a retired firefighter from Los Angeles County. And he was telling me that one of the fire stations where he worked had a fire safety demonstration dog named Cinder. And I have a very specific dog named Cinder, who's a fire safety demonstration dog in my book. And so that's when I first started getting the idea. I was like, oh, well, that would be so cute in a book. And then I just, 101 Dalmatians, I love it. And again, I'm a romance writer. The first 15 minutes of that movie is the best part with the meat.
Yes, when they're, yes.
So I just thought, oh, that would be so fun to kind of take that and run with it,
And here we are. So Lily, what about you? What inspired? Well, so give us a little bit more about how the animals play into your story.
Yeah, so my main character Rita, she has two dogs called Harry and Freddie. Harry is a Yorkie Jack Russell Terrier mix, and Freddie is a French Bulldog. And they have very distinct like personalities. Harry is very charming and suave, and everyone falls in love with him. He's very easy to just befriend, whereas his brother Freddie is a lot more reserved, aloof. Chapter 1 starts off with Rita taking them on a walk around the neighborhood, and you know all the kids love Harry and they pet him and they scratch him, and he plays up to his audience, you know, like as a lot of dogs do. And Freddie, on the other hand, is kind of standing there kind of stiffly and pretending he doesn't enjoy it. And that's like his thing throughout the entire book. Like he pretends not to love it when people pay him attention, even though he really does love it. And if people stop, you know, woe betide whoever stops giving him attention, because he will let you know. So as much as he pretends like he doesn't love it, he absolutely does. But he's really pretentious about it.
Is this based on any animals you know personally or people?
Kind of. I think Harry is like a lot more indicative of like the average dog out there who's like very friendly, very like loving towards humans. I can't walk around the neighborhood without like petting every dog I see. Whereas, you know, Freddie was kind of inspired by one of the dogs in the neighborhood who is an older dog. And I'm not quite sure what breed she is, but she sits on her lawn, and whenever anyone walks by, even if they have a dog or a little kid who wants to pet her, she's just like very like Freddie is very aloof, and she turns her whole head away from them. Like she doesn't want to look at them. She doesn't want to give them the time of day. And like for years, I try like even when I'm driving by in my car and I like look at her, she turns her head away. Like somehow she knows I'm looking at her and she doesn't want to look back. And she does it to everybody. Like I don't get it, but like she has such a forceful personality. And I really wanted to bring some of that to life with the dogs in my book, because I really believe that, you know, the animals have like such a huge personality of their own, like just like humans do. And they can be very, very different. And I just really wanted to showcase that.
I love that you like took the like dogs from your own neighborhood that you've kind of been around, and like they've kind of ended up in your story. Now, did you set out to include pets in this book, or did they just sort of appear on the page?
No, I think I set out pretty much from the beginning to include them. Like, you know, I never had a dog growing up, and like to this day, I still don't, even though like one day in the
nice
future,
you can give
I would love to, obviously.
You can give the characters the things you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't
absolutely. Like
dog,
right now, yeah, like right now I'm living vicariously through my characters. And like even in my upcoming books, like I'm definitely planning on including dogs in all of them. In my next adult, there's going to be a German wire-haired pointer, which I just think are the most adorable things, even though their personalities can be like a little bit like Freddie's at first, where they're more guarded. And I also have in my next YA novel a golden retriever. And, you know, going back to my love of like little rodenty creatures, there's also a teddy bear hamster.
We're gonna talk before we close up. I want to talk about like what we're working on next. So remind me about the hamster and the golden retriever. So Julia, what about you? Like what inspired you as far as, it sounds like, you know, the auction that you were talking about might have played a role in inspiring the book that's coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I always have animals in my books. I mean, I've even in some of the historicals, so we had a pet pig named Lucy and a cow, but I have a lot of dogs. And this one, yeah, I mean, the Fiesta celebration in San Antonio is pretty famous in this part of Texas. And actually, Terry's the one that told me about the King Fido competition. But I just thought it was such a great idea, because in Austin, there's actually an organization that's kind of a consortium of rescue organizations, and they take dogs who, you know, like some of these smaller rescue places pick up, and then they have like this campus. I call it a campus. There's several acres, and so I took that and I sort of reconfigured it where they have the competition to raise money for that campus. And by doing that, you just put these dogs in businesses. And patrons come in and vote with their dollars. You put $1 in, or however much money you want, if that's your favorite dog. But all the dogs are rescue dogs. So the old coffee shop has a 3-legged dachshund. And then the new coffee shop has Bob the Bulldog, who's super grumpy and he doesn't want to be bothered. And he was actually inspired. I used to work in downtown Austin, and there was a bail bondsman, and he had like an old little house that had been converted to an office, and he had a bulldog, and that bulldog would climb on the back of the couch and lay there looking out, at the street. Everybody that went by, hi, knock on it. And he would not, kind of like Lily was talking about, he would not look at him. He would look, look up, look around, just like, just as stubborn as he could be. So I have him, but and I won't tell you who wins. It's not one of my 2 rescue dogs, but because there's several businesses on the street, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I just like every dog I've ever wanted to have, I put in this book.
I kind of get to do a free for all.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, for you, it's like kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like what came first? Like, did you have like the idea for creating a story based on The Devil Wears Prada, or like how did this kind of come to be?
I kind of started with the point actually of wanting to have more animal characters in my books, because I had written another book previously called The Aussie Next Door, and I'd put 2 dogs in that, a really horny little chihuahua and a very he's just, they were supposed to just be in the book to like get the setup of something, and they completely took over the whole thing, and they're hilarious. And I was like, oh my God, this is like my joy in writing, is these big personality animals. So then I was trying to think of an idea that would like work with that. And actually the original idea for this story was inspired by the episode of Sex and the City where Carrie's on the book tour and the dog gets a better billing than her at the signing place. Oh. I thought that was so funny that she's like downgraded from this dog. And then I started thinking about, I bet that the dog has like its own assistant, and that's really funny. And then when we started working up the idea, I was just getting massive Devil Wears Prada vibes from the dog. And I was like, yes, this is the direction that we need to go.
So yeah, it's just so perfect. I can't even. All right. So Maisie, obviously love of cats. So is this one of the situations where you knew you were going to include a cat from the get-go, or did the cat just kind of like prance on into the story?
Yeah, she just pranced on in. I rescued my cats during dental school. And that was also like around the time I started writing this too. And then I was like, everybody needs like an emotional support cat during this time. But, I mean, honestly, there were a lot of scenes where I was like, ooh, I don't know where this is going. So let's just have like a cat come in there and cock block, or like, really disrupt the tension.
They are fantastic plot fixers, aren't they?
And I was like, I am so stuck. Let's write in a cat. Like, and so, Big Booty Judy, what's the saying, like, who rescued who or whatever? She rescued me. Yeah. But I just thought it was fun. And like, I do feel like cat ladies are mildly underrepresented in romance. And so I thought it would be fun to throw that in there. But she kind of wrote herself, and I'm not going to say that I like spoke it into existence, but one of my boyfriend's coworkers later adopted a cat she's like 10, super chunky, like gorgeous, and her name is Judy. I was like, oh my God, it's Big Booty Judy, like in the flesh. Yeah, so life imitates art sometimes.
Definitely. So something I didn't get a chance to ask yet is, do you have a favorite romance novel that features a pet? Is there one that sticks out to you in your mind that you're like, oh, I love this one?
I've been like collecting a list of cats in romance. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be obsessive, but like,
I think it's great because you're like, cats are underrepresented. Let's find all the books that have cats in it.
Yes. Okay. And so Talia Hibbert did such a great job with Smudge and
Smudge.
yeah, Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So cute, so wonderful. I love that. And I love like little Smudge on the cover. And then for historical romance, Tessa Dare in the Duchess deal wrote in, like, I like it. This scene with this cat where it was truly a cock-blocking cat to like the highest degree. I was laughing so hard, like my entire bed was shaking. I had to like go to a different room to collect myself. I was just like in tears, cracking up about this like feral cat named Buttons that the heroine adopts really randomly, and it just like causes total havoc throughout the entire, you know.
Tara is saying we need the whole list, Maisie. And that's, so we should collect the list of all of the books that feature
you know
cats
what?
in general.
I'm gonna pitch it to BuzzFeed. Well, like, I'm taking it to the top. Like, let's go.
Why not? Yeah, all of these are the romances. So I'm gonna add Once Upon a Bad Boy features. Okay.
Yes.
Very grumpy cat with a mustache where he looks like Clark Gable. So his name is
I loved that detail.
So, it is, but cats, they do have a lot of personality, so they are a lot of fun to write into books. And I do think Tessa is, in historical, one of the queens of like the lamb that's called, they name him Dinner.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. She is a master. Like what is the third book in the series, the Wallflower Wager? Like she has the hedgehog in there, and like she has all.
Talk more in a second, but I do want to remind everyone in the chat that if you have a favorite animal in a romance novel or a favorite author who does a great job with animals in romance novels, please drop it in the chat so everybody watching can get in on all the goodness. And so I also wanted to ask the other authors too if they have a favorite. So Terry, do you have one that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I'm a big animal lover, so I read a lot of romance novels that have pets. I can't pick just one. Lizzie Shane has a new series for Forever Romance called the Pine Hollow series, and the most recent one was called Once Upon a Puppy, and it was adorable. And, Victoria Shade writes for Berkeley. She's a dog trainer in real life, and all of her, what does she say? She has a cute little tagline that says all of her, but all the happy endings have 4 paws. And she has one called Who Rescued Who that I really loved because it was someone who ran away to England and adopted a dog, which was just like my fantasy life. But real quick, I do want to say, since Stephanie brought up the dog that upstaged Carrie Bradshaw at her book signing, I once got up by a 2-headed turtle at a TV appearance that I did. I was on a local morning show to talk about one of my books, and I showed up and they had like all the guests in the green room. And so I was in the green room, and like there was a guy there from the zoo because I guess a turtle had just been born at the zoo, 2 heads. And I mean, it was one turtle with 2 heads.
That's big news.
I know. And like it had 2 names, one for each head. And so I was oohing and eyeing over the turtle, as were my romance writer friends, because there was like a panel of us that were going to be on the show. But then I was like, I had my book because I was going on the show to talk about my book. I was like, I would love to take a picture of the turtle with my book so I can tweet it. And they were like, no, because they were concerned about the turtle's branding.
You are not good enough for the 2-headed turtle.
No, they thought that it would be inappropriate for the turtle to. Yeah.
Stephanie, how about you? A favorite author or particular book that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction and pick a book with a moose.
Oh,
yeah,
to be different. The Tourist Trap by Sarah Taylor.
Sarah Morgenthau, yeah.
And I promise, like, horny animals is not my brand, but this was a horny moose, and it was hilarious.
He's in love with the truck. He's in love with the pickup. Yes, so he does like to make love to the pickup truck.
It's such a fantastic book.
Yeah, it also because so the moose, he's awesome, and then also Jake the blind dog is also amazing in that book as well. Yeah, Lily, how about you?
Well, I think, going in like a completely opposite direction of animals that aren't horny. I think when growing up, one of my favorite books that had animals in it was Charlotte's Web. and obviously that's like a real tearjerker. I haven't read it like more recently, but now that reminds me I probably want to. And as far as like things more recently, I am really like into one of my a friend and fellow 21 debut in adult, Alana Martin. She has like the most amazing husky trilogy set in Helen, Alaska. And like it's so full of like tropey goodness. Her second book just came out, Pause and Prejudice, and her third one's coming out soon, which I have an early copy of, which I'm really excited to dive into after I finish like all my deadlines. And that one, and that one is Live and Let Bark.
Live and Let Bark.
Yeah, I love her titles. Like she has the best titles ever, and I just think like in terms of people writing like dogs into romance right now, like she just does such a great job with that, because they're really built into the setting with the fact that they're huskies in Alaska. Like it's so built in. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I think anyone who's hungry for more Alaskan settings, like that's perfect. Charlene mentioned Kristen Higgins, who, yes, like there was a time period where every single book, it was like it was a dog on the cover, you knew it was a Kristen Higgins book. Julia, do you have one that like sticks out to you, a favorite author?
Yeah, well, speaking of Alaskan dogs, Terry wrote a couple of those because, she also used to be, like race dogs, a dog musher. Terry was, or she tried it once anyway.
Up, Terry.
All right, she really she was not that, but she went.
I volunteered at the Iditarod Trail dog sled race in Alaska for 3 years in a row, but I was not a musher.
Oh no, I've completely changed the story. You were a musher and you camped out anyway.
In her mind, this is how it went.
But I did want, and I just started reading Stephanie's new book, Dachshund Wears Prada. Dachshund, I can't get over that, which is really good. I told her I've only read like the first chapter, but I'm really in love with it. But I did want to mention Kate Atkinson, who writes like mysteries, but she had that book a few years ago, Started Early and Took My Dog. But the protagonist is this older woman, kind of like, gruff, and she has a dog that goes everywhere with her. It was an excellent book, but I will never forget that one because I just thought that was such a great. She goes off and solves mysteries with her dog.
Well, yeah, that's always. I mean, those cozy mysteries that always involve animals or pets. It's just those are such fun comfort reads. So yeah, so as far as like hedgehogs are concerned, so Laura Kinsale is a favorite of mine, historical author, and I will never forget the character Merlin, who has a pet hedgehog that likes to sleep like in her pocket. Like Merlin's a scientist, and so she always has this hedgehog. And yes, so I'm doing an ode to Merlin's hedgehog in my current book, and I'm writing about it. And my friend has adopted 4 hedgehogs.
Okay, am I the only one that thought hedgehogs were like wild animals? I didn't know that you could like really like domesticate them.
Yeah, they started out with 2, and then somehow they ended up with 4. Not they didn't reproduce. Like they like adopted them. I guess there's when like if they're not like producing more, or they neglect their young, or there's like they're just like, I don't want to be doing this thing, so they don't want them anymore. So my friend adopted them. Yeah, 4. So she has 4. They're cute, but they're nocturnal and they're not exactly super cuddly, but they're a lot of fun. So I wanted to kind of move into a little bit more about, so for me, writing about hedgehogs right now, it's great to go over there and to get and to like take pictures and to ask questions. And I'm finding out more than I wanted to know about how much hedgehogs poop, which is apparently a lot. So I didn't need to know that, but now my heroine will be dealing with that. So I wanted to ask if you had any particular bits of research that you did during this book about animals or about the pets that you included, and like if you have funny stories or pieces like, okay, like I learned this about Maine Coon cats, or I learned this about dachshunds or whatever that you wanted to mention. So Maisie, with the Maine Coons, is there anything that came up that you?
Oh my gosh, I was looking at like world records for lengths and stuff like that, because they continue.
And this big booty bee.
Yeah, because like continually when Dan like thinks about or refers to Judy, like she keeps getting larger and larger in his head as he goes through. Like, he starts like, she looks like she was 25 pounds, and then it's 40, and then it's 50, and like so.
So how big can a Maine Coon get?
I think so. The longest I believe was a little over 4 feet, like lengthwise, like 4.5 or something like that.
As
and
big
then
as my Aunt Florence.
yeah, I know. Yeah, my mom, she's 5'1", and I was like, I mean, that's almost a cat your size. Like that is unreal. And then they average actually around 20 pounds, but Judy, she like knows her worth, and so she's 25 to 30 pounds. But yeah, I was like doing deep dives in their personality. I was like, should I adopt one? I don't know.
It is so easy to get derailed on the pet research. So
oh, it is.
I see Stephanie shaking her. I'm sorry. Did you somebody else?
No.
Okay, you're shaking your head, Stephanie. What did you do some deep diving on dachshund life here?
I did, because I'm trying to convince my husband to let me have a dog. So I figured this research can do double duty, right? Yeah, dachshunds have like such an interesting personality to them. And so there was a lot of research I did, because I'm the kind of person that's like, when I go into an internet hole, I like take a hat with a light and I go very deep in there. A lot of the stuff doesn't always make it in the book, but it kind of just informs like the personality. Because this dog also has a character arc, because I was like, I'm not just writing a character arc for my hero and heroine. The dog has an arc as well, because, you know, I like to make my life difficult. I learned that dachshunds are very much like, they're quite, they can be quite aggressive actually and territorial. And then that was all because they were bred to go into badger holes back in the day. It's also why they're kind of long and skinny, so they can get down deep into the badger holes. And like badgers are like pretty scary animals, and so these dogs have to be like strong and aggressive enough to like stand up to something like that. So that's why they've got quite a like, you know, territorial, hardy kind of personality, but they also tend to be the dog that like picks their one person, and that person is like the one that they love more than anybody else. So I tried to incorporate like bits of those personality things into the story, even if the like stuff about badger holes didn't quite
doesn't make it in. But that's so much fun. Lily, how about you? Like, I know that you kind of like the research was absorbing the personalities of the dogs in the neighborhood, but was there anything else that you could share about the process of writing these dogs into your book?
You know, I feel like I got a pretty good grasp of how I wanted to write them, just from like observation and like the dogs, which I've known, and my friends' dogs and things like that. Most of my research in the book actually went towards like DIY stuff around the house, because my character was a character restorer. So I was watching a lot of HGTV. I was like looking things up on YouTube. So a lot of like my useless information that I just kind of sponged up is like, I mean, to be honest, like none of it made it off like the cutting room floor, because a lot of it is like way too technical and way too dry and boring for a reader to want to read. So I'm kind of filing it away just in case I ever get very crafty myself to do anything. Because right now, like the extent of my DIY is like a paintbrush.
So there are some really good questions from the audience that I'm going to want to try and make sure we get to. But before that, I did want to ask, Terry, same for you. Did you do Dalmatian research, or was it all of that time shopping for toys at McDonald's?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much an extreme dog person. So like I said, I volunteered at the Iditarod. I used to show my dogs in confirmation dog shows.
Oh, wow.
Like the beauty pageant type dog shows. And I wrote a book about that.
I'm shocked, Terry.
Oh yeah, I know. Unleashing Mr. Darcy, you know, is about a dog show judge and a dog nanny. And it was turned into my first home. And I've also shown my dogs in rally obedience. And so I've been around a lot of different dog breeds. And so I kind of knew a lot about Dalmatians already. But most of my research was about fire safety demonstration dogs, because I have my heroine has her Dalmatian, Sprinkles, who's a chaotic mess. But it's the only Dalmatian in this small town. It's a one Dalmatian town. That's like the first line of the book. But then the hero moves in and he's got this perfectly behaved Dalmatian. And all of a sudden, this Dalmatian is the star of the town because it's amazing. It's that, you know, Cinder is amazing. And so she gets really jealous. So I was trying to figure out, like, could this dog do, you know, in its demonstrations that was so amazing. So I watched a lot of Dalmatians doing fire safety stuff on YouTube.
That's fascinating.
I know, like they can bark out 911 and they can stop, drop, and roll to show kids what to do. And like, you know, my hero would say, hey, what do you do if there's a fire? You know, and the dog crouches down really low and gets down to the ground and kind of commando crawls.
Oh my goodness.
And so it was fun. Like there were a lot of those videos on YouTube.
That's really cool, but I also love the fact that you have kind of the foil of like this dog who's like perfect, but then this other dog, Sprinkles, who's just goofy and lovable. Yeah. Super cute. I love it. Julia, how about you? With you, I know you've already kind of talked about a little bit with the stuff that went into the not an auction, but you said it was a charity event.
Yeah, like a contest for Well, I mean, I've always had dogs, and so a lot of my research comes from daily observation. 15 hours a day, because that dog never leaves my side. But I'm part of a women's giving circle in Austin, and we had some grant applications from some of the bigger rescue organizations. So, I learned a lot about like some of the challenges that they're up against and where their dogs come from, and, how they try and what they try to do with them. So I learned a lot about that. But, I have these two dogs that are in competition, but one of them seriously loves the other one, and the other one just, couldn't give him the time of day, which is a true life story. My dog loved my sister's dog, and every time we went there, he was so excited, would try and play, and my sister's dog would not give him the time of day. So I based a lot of their relationship on that, Bob the Bulldog and Truck the giant, mutt. But that's what. Does that answer the question?
Those YouTube videos always break my heart when it's the one dog that's like, I want to play.
And I do follow a lot of social media accounts with dogs in it.
You could soak it up everywhere. And there's, like I said, there's some great questions in the chat, so I want to get to them. But before we do that, I do want to make sure that we have just a second to talk about what's coming up next, what we're working on next. Lily, I know you mentioned that there is going to be some other animals coming up in a future book. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I have a young adult novel called Beauty and the Beastrum coming out with the Viking Children's in summer 22. Which is a rivals to lovers summer workplace romance inspired very loosely by Disney's Beauty and the Beast, where it's gender bent. So the girl is actually the one who's the beast in this, and the boy is the beauty. And this is like a grumpy sunshine trope, because I feel kind of like Maisie said earlier, like cat ladies are underrepresented. Like I feel like grumpy girls are very underrepresented. Like I'm a grumpy girl, like I will own that. And I really wanted to see a girl like that in a YA novel as well. And she has a very adorable golden retriever called Buster Baxter, named after like one of my fictional wannabe best friends growing up from Arthur, the TV show, if you guys are familiar with that.
Yes. It's so much fun.
And her love interest has a really adorable teddy bear hamster. Note, it is not a rat.
Is that a type of hamster, a teddy bear hamster? Is that like a it's a different breed. They're really adorable. They're really cute. And I also have another adult coming out with Putnam coming out next fall called The Decoy Girlfriend, where an author is caught impersonating her movie star lookalike, and she's blackmailed into taking her place, including in dating the actress's really sexy co-star boyfriend. And our main character is kind of scared of dogs, actually, never having had one growing up. She's kind of a little terrified of them. And the actress, of course, has this big, like, kind of intimidating German wire-haired pointer, which now our main character has to take care of. And she's terrified, and that's something that the hunky boyfriend is going to help her through with. Of course he will. That sounds so good. And that's coming out next fall, you said. That's awesome. So Stephanie, I know you've got this. So the Prada book is not out till May, but are there more books being planned in this series, or?
Yeah, that series is going to be 3 books. The second one is currently titled Gentlemen Preferred Dogs. I don't know if you yeah. And it's fantastic. A Bichon Frise named Twinkle Stardust, because that's what happens when you let your 3-year-old niece name the dog. But I actually also have a book, funnily enough, coming out before the Dachshund book called A Merry Aussie Christmas that has a dog in it as well. It's coming out in November. And the setup of that story is that the hero and heroine are the official Mr. and Mrs. Claus for their small Australian town. And he decides to stick a antler headband on his basset hound and take the basset hound around everywhere for all of the Christmas activities that they have to do. It's got a lot of like Australian culture in there. It's really fun and sweet, and it's hot weather Christmas story with lots of animal shenanigans involving some stolen sausages at a fair. So it's a very busy Christmas. It's super
It
fun.
sounds super fun.
Yeah.
And that's a Merry Aussie Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, in October. All right, so Maisie, I know this is the first one. The first one is the big one, and it's your horny tooth book with the Hootie Chootie. But can you tell us a little bit what else might be coming up? What's in the the pipeline?
Yeah, so there's 2 other books in the series. The second one, I tried so hard to write a dog into the novel, but the second one, dogs are a lot of work. Like, that's what I was realizing when I was trying to draft it. I was like, I cannot keep track of this dog. Like, cats are days that you even have
Not
a pet.
even mentally. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, like, literally. So in the second book, the heroine has ADHD, and I was like, this is just not copacetic. Like, she could not keep track. Like, I just couldn't do it. So the second book doesn't have any pets, but then the third one has just like kind of a nightmare of a rescue cat named Grammy, and who kind of is described as like a lightning, looks like she was just electrocuted by a lightning bolt. And she's a disaster, and she has a character arc as well. And she just like, honestly, she probably steals the show in that one too. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm just gonna keep on with the cats, I think, because I can't keep track of dogs.
Yeah. I love that you're just like, I can't, you know what? No, it's just not happening. But Grammy, the cat that looks like he was electrocuted, sounds hilarious. So Julia, so this is the one that's coming out is the second book in kind of that series, yes?
Yeah, and the series as designed only has 2 books in it. So right now, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do another like dog rom-com or just a straight contemporary romance. But whatever it is, it will have a dog in it. And then I have a new historical series starting in February called The Royal Matchmaker, but there's a lot of animals in that too. There's a cat that's been around that, wanders around from throne room to throne room and, sitting on the throne and that kind of thing. But
that's not, I wasn't sure that was where it was going when you said
no, there's no coyotes. They all live. So yeah, and I, just more of what I've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, and it's great that you kind of have those different worlds to kind of play in, mixing back and forth between contemporary and historical. Terry, how about you? I know because I feel like you've got like release after release, like you're a busy lady. So like, what's going on next?
Hopefully a nap. No, I'm kidding. Well, I had a book come out last year called Christmas Charms with Hallmark. They have a publishing company. So my Hallmark book, Christmas Charms, came out in trade paperback last year, but it's coming out in mass market next month. And it has a magic dog in it.
Magic dog. So a dog that literally like has magic or does magic tricks?
He appears by magic because the book is about a magic charm bracelet. Like my heroine gets a bracelet stuck on her wrist at the beginning of the book, and one by one the charms come to life.
I love it.
Start appearing. So the first charm that comes to life is this golden retriever that just shows up on her front porch with a big red bow on its neck, and his name is Fruitcake. She calls him that because she's like, everything around here is nuttier than a fruitcake, because she's like trying to figure out like what's going on, where all these crazy things coming from. So that comes in mass market paperback as a Walmart exclusive in October. And then book 2 in the Turtle Beach series, A Spot of Trouble, is book 1 in a new series I've written for Source Books called Turtle Beach. So a year from now, book 2 will come out. A Line in the Sand is what it's called, and it has a little mermaid theme. The heroine plays the mermaid at the local aquarium.
Do we have any hermit crabs?
You know what? There are a lot of marine biology type creatures in that book. I don't there's a hermit crab that I remember. I'm working on edits right now, and I have not run across a hermit crab, and I don't recall writing one. I'm sorry, Lily.
No hermit crabs.
Yeah.
So there was a question for you and Julia specifically. Knit had asked if you and Julia ever discuss working on a. So I guess they're asking if you ever thought about working on a book together, because I know it definitely sounds like you plot together and help share ideas, but they're asking, have you ever thought about doing a book together?
We talk about that all the time. One of these days, we're going to do it. I mean, I feel like
when the planets align, when the universe is right, the stars align. Yeah. So
yes,
happen. Yeah.
We talk constantly. Well, we're going to do this. Yeah, let's do it this year. Let's make this the year. You know, year after year passes, but
I know.
Yeah,
we even made up a really clever pen name, Julia Terry. Like no one.
See, apparently, so see, Knit, they've got it. They're thinking about it. That's very clever, by the way. Like you put a lot of thought into that. So we're running out of time, but I do like a couple of these, some really cute questions here. So, Robert asked, so this one is interesting. You don't all have to answer this, but raise your hand if you think of an answer. So, if you were to pick a type of dinosaur, how would you work that into a romance novel? Stephanie?
Okay. I literally handed revisions in for a book that's filled with dinosaurs, like yesterday. So
there you go, Robert. So what is this? Tell us about this.
So it's Kissing Games. It's a Halloween themed book, which is, we don't have Halloween in Australia. So like when I moved to Canada, I was like, I want to write a Halloween book. And it's about a librarian who is obsessed with dinosaurs, and she only wears things throughout the entire book that are dinosaur printed or dinosaur themed. And every Halloween costume she ever has is dinosaur themed, and she dresses up. You know how like Halloween's kind of like sometimes girls like to get a bit sexy? No, she goes with like one of those
big inflatable dinosaur.
Yeah. And there's like a Halloween float that they have to work on together. And it is like extreme dinosaur. So that's an excellent question.
That's perfect, Robert. So what was it called? A kissing what?
It's called Kissing Games, and it's out in October.
Games. So there you go.
Yeah.
And then Rye has asked, do you have a pet that you want to feature but haven't yet? Does anyone have something like in their back pocket, or like on a, like I know I one day want to include this particular pet in a story? Anybody thinking about something like that? I guess not. So as far as like, is there a pet that was inspired by your own real life pet characters? Did you ever pick a pet that was inspired by your own pets?
All of my pets have ended up in my books.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, mine is sometimes. Well, I kept putting my Cavaliers, Bliss and Finn, in my books. That I had to give them new names. So they have their names, Bliss and Finn, and Unleashing Mr. Darcy. And then they were in a book I wrote for Harlequin called The Bachelor's Baby Surprise. But I had to rename them Olive and Bee because I kept the same dogs. I really love them though. Okay.
So have you ever dedicated a book to a pet? Anybody?
Yes. You lucky dog. I have to tell you, because when my mother turned 80, we went through and wrote down every dog she'd ever had, because she was the big dog lover. So this book is dedicated to every dog I could think of, only to find out I left out 3. So the next book is dedicated to the 3 I left out.
Did you the 3 that I forgot?
Yes. Plus a couple of new ones the family's gotten since then. But, yeah.
To anybody else, have you dedicated a book to a pet, or do you think you ever would? Terry, you have? I think those 2 dogs deserve to be.
I know. Well, Christmas Charms, which I was just talking about, right before that book came out, my first Cavalier that I ever got, Bliss, passed away while I was in edits for that book. So I dedicated Christmas Charms to her, because to me, she's the original Hallmark dog, because she was in my first book and movie for them. So so Christmas Charms was in her memory.
All right. Well, so this has been fabulous. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Make sure, and the audience, thank you. You've had some really great questions, and make sure you go and check out all of these books that are available for purchase on the Love Sweet Arrow website. You can come back next Friday night for the Boozy Book Broads. We'll be here Friday at 7 with author Reese Ryan to talk about her books and her series. So that will be lots of fun. And apparently Lily and Maisie are going to continue to entertain you later on this evening. So you can check out where they're going to be later on tonight as well. So thanks again so much for everyone who's joining me tonight. Thank you to Love Sweet Arrow. And we're going to say